The intersection of endurance sport, health, fitness, and life. Following the evidence where it leads with the science of self-propelled motion. This is the Endurance Experience Podcast, powered by EventHorizon.tv and hosted by Tony Rich.
Welcome back to the Endurance Experience. This is Season 4. I'm willing to bet there are quite a few runners that listen to this podcast. Runners, marathoners, and actually marathons have become so popular over the years, I'd be surprised to meet someone who hasn't done a marathon or at least a half marathon. But what about ultra marathons, which is technically anything over 50 kilometers or 31 miles? I've said previously that running is among the most efficient means of getting and staying fit. So whether you're an avid runner or you're not an avid runner, my aim with this podcast is to get you to come to the other side inspired and with greater understanding of what the human body is capable of when you trust it and invest in it and become motivated. My guest today is Michael Wardian. And many of you who are in the running circles, you know Michael well. He's an ultra marathoner and also an endurance coach like myself. He has racked up a pretty phenomenal record of marathon and ultra marathon finishes. We talk about some of them on the podcast, but just very quickly at high level, he's completed double-digit 100-plus miler ultra marathons. All the big names. He's done Badwater, the 135-mile Death Valley Race, Marathon des Sables, Western States, and more. He's won the World Marathon Challenge and set the world record for that event. That is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. He averaged a 2:45 marathon for all 7. That's incredible. And he's done things like he's run the fastest marathon as Spider-Man and Elvis. He's run the fastest 50K on a treadmill. And there's so many of those that he has. He's either currently the fastest or has been the fastest. He's racked up a long list of those. In 2020, during the COVID-19 quarantine, he won the Quarantine Backyard Ultra Running race, which was 263 miles over 63 hours without sleeping. Bear in mind, he's doing all of this while working a 9-to-5 job and being a family man. And so that's just very high level. I mean, there's so many that we can't even name them all. But we talk about his origin story, which you might be surprised about since he didn't start running until after college. And then we spend the lion's share of the time talking about nutrition, fueling, and training science to attempt to deconstruct and unpack how he's able to perform the way that he does, which is unimaginable to most people. But we try to unpack that for the benefit of people who might be interested in improving their own running. We get into where he's at now, and does he ever see any physical or psychological burnout? And we talk about some of the next big endeavors that he would like to do. Finally, I ask him to give his advice to people across the spectrum, whether they'd like to start running or whether they'd like to start running for high performance. So without further delay, I give you Michael Wardian. I am on with Michael Wardian. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
All right. So many of the people that listen to the podcast know you well. You have an unbelievable track record in marathon and ultra marathon performance. And I want to talk to you about some of the things that go into your training approach, your nutrition approach. And I want to talk to you about, your performance and some of the big achievements you've had, and then maybe talk about what you got coming next. Before we get into that, let's talk about your origin story. I love to hear origin stories and get into what made this person tick. So if you could talk about your athletic history growing up through school, and how did you end up getting into being a marathoner and ultra marathoner?
I've been lucky. I've got to share the story, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share it with your audience. And so it's a little bit different trajectory than a lot of professional runners. So I didn't run at all growing up. I played a sport called lacrosse. So I ran around with sticks and hit people and did that kind of activity and endurance a little bit, but it was mostly I would only run if I was about to score a goal and or I got in trouble and missed a pass or something.
Right.
And so then I think there's like a joke, like, my sport is other people's punishment or something now. But it's So my experience with running was like I did it because that's what allowed me to do what I love to do, which was play lacrosse. And so I played lacrosse from fourth or fifth grade. I think it was fourth grade. I started playing lacrosse, and I played all the way through my junior year of college. So I went to Michigan State University, which was a Division I program when I was in college in the early 90s. So I graduated from high school. We were the Northern Virginia or the Virginia State champs for lacrosse. So that was a big deal for me. That was kind of something I've worked through and for throughout my high school career, and then went away to Michigan State to play lacrosse there. Had a great experience with the team at Michigan State. And then my final year of school, I decided I wanted to see what it was like to be in college, but not be an athlete, and kind of have that experience of being, a fraternity boy and running around. And mostly it came down, I wanted to go on spring break, and we never got to go on spring break if you were playing lacrosse. So that was awesome to see what, college is like while you're not playing lacrosse. And so my journey began with running as I was used to working out for lacrosse, like 4 hours a day, lifting, going to practice, doing all the things that you need to do to be at that level. And I picked up running because I was like, wow, this is awesome. I can go for 45-minute run and I'm kind of toast. And I still have, 3 hours and 15 minutes of extra time. So I figured run was an awesome way to do that. And what happened was I started going longer and longer, and all of a sudden I was like going 45 minutes, and then I go for like an hour, and I'd see like, if I could run across Michigan State's campus. And I went home with my buddy Vince Boyson, and his mom Vicky Boyson had just run the Boston Marathon. And this was kind of like my seminal aha moment. I was like, hey, I'd always kind of had a fascination with running those kind of distances, but the people that you see on television that are running those distances are all like Bill Rogers and, Alberto Salazar or the East African guys. You never see like a regular person. And so that was the first time that I had met somebody in person in real marathon. And it was Vince's mom, Vicky. And she was nice enough I said, hey, I want to run a marathon. And she was nice enough to give it and set me on my way. And I feel like she never really thought it was going to amount to much. She was just kind of like, oh yeah, you're the guy that like drinks beers with my son. But I took it really seriously. And if it, said run 6 miles on Monday, I would run 6 miles on Monday. If there was a blizzard on Tuesday and it said run 10 miles, I would run 10 miles. And so it was actually harder at that time because there wasn't like GPS. So like you had to like, drive in your car like 5 miles out or something. And so like, it wasn't as easy just to like go for a run and be like, oh, I'm going to do 10 miles. Like I'd, have to run to somewhere where I knew and then, maybe loop back or something. But I did it. And I decided like, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. And of course I didn't know that the Boston Marathon is like most runners like have trouble getting into the Boston Marathon. Like you just don't run the Boston Marathon. It's like kind of like you work maybe your whole running career to like qualify once. And
Right.
so when I sent away for the envelope, I sent, my self-addressed stamped envelope and got the little pamphlet back. It said, "What's your qualifying marathon?" And I was like, I don't have one. I want to run your marathon. And so I figured out that they wouldn't let me in if you don't do a marathon. So I did the Marine Corps marathon in 1996, and I had to run under 3 hours and 10 minutes because I was, I think, 21 or 22. And I think I ran 3:06 or 3:08 and qualified for Boston, and ran the Boston Marathon in 1997. And I decided I was going to try to run sub 3 hours because I thought that's what makes you like a real runner. And I figured like once I do that, I can just quit running and I'll go and do something else. And I don't know if a lot of people in your audience have run the Boston Marathon, but if you ever go there on Patriots Day and it's a beautiful day in April and you have that experience, like you will come away a changed person. And I definitely did, and was completely smitten by the race and thought everyone was cheering for me, and I got hooked. And from there, I just decided I wanted to kind of have that feeling as much as I could, and quickly signed up for, I figured I'd just do all the big marathons that were in the US at that time. So I signed up for Chicago, New York. I signed up for Marine Corps again and did all those in like a 4-week span. And everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to get hurt. Like, there's no way you can do that." And each race I got stronger. And then I found out about a race called the JFK 50 miler. And I just didn't believe that you could run that far. I just thought I thought it was completely made up. And they're like, "No, you can totally do that." And I was like, wow, I got to try that. So I ran the JFK 50 miler after doing Boston in the spring, Chicago, New York, Marine Corps, and then JFK 50 miler. And I was just kind of hooked. And from then I've just set different goals and continue to chase them.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty incredible that you ran that fast. 3:06 your first time out. Now for you, that must be a warm up.
Well, it depends. It could be like I was like, "Oh, I'll never run that slow again." But I got hurt a little while ago, and I might be happy with the 3:06 right now. So it's funny how your perspective changes for sure. Or if you're running up like the side of a mountain, if you're running the Pikes Peak Marathon, 3:06 is a pretty good time. So it just depends.
Well, it's just amazing because I'm glad you told that story because, many people think that someone like yourself, you were, trained as a youth, or you were bred for running, or you trained, as a pro athlete at a very young age. What you've demonstrated is that anybody can, be a good runner, an effective runner, if you decide later on in life that that's what you want to do. And so I think that's a great story that you're able to tell. So let's take a look.
Yeah. I mean, I think, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to I think that's the nice thing about running is you don't have to have a pedigree. You don't have to be from a certain part of the world, or, your parents are runners, or, you grew up as a runner, or you even have the proper form. Like it's one of those sports where your determination and heart mean more than almost anything, and consistency. Just going out there and doing it. Like it's one of the coolest sports because it doesn't care what you've done either on the good side. Like in the past, like if you're not out there doing the work, you can't pretend that you're going to get a time. Like there's no subjectivity to it. There's no if you're the richest person in the world, it doesn't mean that you can run a 2:01 marathon, or even a 3-hour marathon. Like you either do the work yourself or it doesn't get done. And so I think that's what's great about it.
Yeah. So for the listeners, just to give you an idea, I'm just going to read off some of the things that Michael has done. This is just from online resources, and you can comment on the accuracy of these. you had the world record for pushing a stroller during a marathon, 2:34:37. Is that?
Yes, I at one point I did. I've had some people that have broken those records. It's definitely been cool to set some world records.
Yeah. You once held the fastest treadmill marathon.
Yes, that is true.
You've run several of the top big. Oh, by the way, what was the fastest treadmill marathon time?
I think at one point I ran 2:23. Yeah, 2:23, wow. And I think now it's maybe sub 2:14 or 2:15. Wow. There's been a lot of people that have been doing treadmill stuff during quarantine.
There have. You've done several of the big ultra marathons. Marathon des Sables, which is 156 miler. Western States 100, Himalayan 100, Vermont 100. How many total 100 mile ultra marathons have you done? Just over 100.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say probably
lost count.
15 or 20. I don't know. Yeah, I've done a lot. Yeah, I've done like Hard Rock, Badwater Ultra Marathon, which is through Death Valley in July.
Okay. Yep, Badwater.
Yeah, there's a race called Diagonal de Fou, which is off Madagascar and a place called Reunion Island. There's a race called Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc where you run around the biggest mountain in Europe. I've been super fortunate to have been on all 7 continents running marathons and ultra marathons.
Yep. Fastest marathon on a 200-meter track, 2:27:21.
Yep.
My goodness, that is incredible. You've qualified for the U.S. Olympic trials.
Yes, sir.
2:17:49. And then at the trials, you ran 2:21. And then the very next day, went out and did the Houston Marathon and ran at 2:31.
Yes.
That's incredible. And then, like you've mentioned, you did the 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And that's 183.4 miles in a week. And so you set the world record for that, which was a 2:45 average.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty incredible. Describe that event, just so for people who don't know what the 777 is.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's called the 777 or the World Marathon Challenge. It's put on by a guy named Richard Donovan. He's a super cool, dynamic Irish guy. He came up with the idea. Yeah. You run 7 marathons on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. His 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents actually ends up on the landmass of Antarctica. A lot of races that are in Antarctica, I don't know if your listeners know, but they go to like King George Island or somewhere in the vicinity, but not actually on the mainland. So like that's the one cool thing about the World Marathon Challenge is that you're running on the ice sheet, right. Which has been a little bit unique. So I've done the race twice. I did it in 2017 and also 2019. I won it both times. The first time I did it in 2017, we started in a place called Punta Arenas. We flew to Antarctica. The first marathon was on Antarctica. Then we flew back to Punta Arenas, which is in Chile for the people that might not know where it is. I didn't know until I went there. So the next race was in Miami, and then we went to Madrid, to Marrakesh, to Dubai for Asia. And then we finished in Sydney, Australia 7 days later. The second time I did it in 2019, we went to Cape Town in South Africa, flew to Antarctica, ran the race in Antarctica, flew back to Cape Town. From there, we went to Perth, Australia, Dubai, Madrid, Madrid, Santiago, Chile, and then we ended up in Miami again. So yeah, it's one of the most incredible, unique, and just awesome experiences.
Right. It's got to be one of the most amazing endurance events on the planet. And I previously talked to Becca Peasy on this podcast.
Yeah, Becca's crushed. Like, it's funny. We've both done it twice, but we've never done it at the same time.
Yeah. She's from my home state. So she's here. She's great. Unbelievable endeavors. I mean, those were just a few that you can go out and read about Michael on his wiki and his website. Now, I think some of the people listening to that and listening to you talk about your background, not even starting to do this until after college. Let's talk about some of your nutrition and training, so we can try to see if we can unlock this performance. So, are you self-coached, or do you rely on a coach, or are you 100% self-coached?
I'm 100% self-coached. Yep, and I'm actually coaching people too for a group. Yeah, mm-hmm. So a group called the Chosky Collective. So there's a group of athletes that are helping empower people through coaching. So yeah, awesome.
We'll go out and take a look. What's the website so people can find it?
I think it's called Chosky Run, and that's let me just double check that for you. So it's CHASKI.run, and it's the Chosky Endurance Collective.
Yeah. All right. I'll put the link in the show notes so we can have it on the podcast show notes. So self-coached, and you coach athletes. Okay, let's start with talking about nutrition.
Sure.
Do you have a particular philosophy and approach that you employ and you pass on to people you coach? Just daily nutrition,
Yeah, for like daily nutrition, I keep it pretty simple. I feel like I'm a vegetarian, so I've been a vegetarian since college. Actually, it was around the same time I started running, which is weird, but I was just eating a little bit of meat, and I transitioned to no meat, no fish, and I've transitioned all the way to vegan at one point. Right now I'm eating eggs and honey are my two animal products that I eat. And so that's worked really well for me. It's something that I've found to be really useful for recovery, and also just fueling me and never like feeling too full or bloated or anything. That's been something that I've enjoyed, and I think works well for me. I feel like I know people that don't do that and have just as good or better results than I do. So I feel like nutrition is kind of a tough thing to impart on other people. Like, I think there's some things that work well for one person don't work for other people, and people have different allergies and tolerances. And I eat I'm not a high fat, low carb guy. I like carbs and eat them, and they're a part of my diet. And so I've dabbled in all kinds of different things, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. Like a typical day is start the day with oatmeal or something like that, fresh fruit, nuts. I eat a ton of almond butter, a lot of honey. I prefer like comb honey. So I tried to have honeybees last year for the first time, and they all died, which was a bummer, but I was trying to get my own source of honey. So I'm going to try again this year. I guess hopefully it takes a little while.
Hopefully the murder hornets didn't get them.
Yeah, no, they just the queen. I just had a couple bad queens, unfortunately. Yeah. And so if you get a bad queen, like, things don't go well for your hive. So hopefully this year will be better. And then lots of greens. So salads, veggies, sweet potatoes. I'm lucky I got hooked up with a local company called District Taco. So burritos, tacos, lots of guacamole, eat a bunch of cereal. Yeah, almond butter.
That's great. I mean, so you've turned on its head the idea that a vegetarian can't be a high performing athlete. So we know that that's not true. And so you're a perfect example of someone who's been a vegetarian and can do the extraordinary things that you do being a vegetarian, just eating healthy fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds. Right.
Yeah. I'd say I don't eat as many seeds as like I work with a company called Inside Tracker that do
I know them.
Yeah, blood testing. Yeah, they're super cool. Yeah, especially if you're up in that area, right? So like they're based up in that part of the world in Massachusetts. But like I definitely I've started to add in more like, and I've been lucky. I work with Stoked Oats who make like oatmeals, and they have some of the chia and those type of seeds. Like I never got into that, when like Born to Run came out and everyone was like chomping on chia seeds, and like I was just like, whatever. But like some of those things are great actually, and so like I've been incorporating more of that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's always like little fine tuning things that you can do, like instead of blackberries, maybe eat blueberries or raspberries after a hard run, or tart cherry juice or something like that.
And I noticed that you didn't say anything about supplementation, which is, I think it's a good thing. I think runners are always, and triathletes, endurance athletes are always looking for some form of pill. And I always sort of push back on that. But what you've described so far is just healthy, whole foods, no supplementation or anything like that.
Not normally. There are sometimes like there's a company that I've done some stuff with called Pure, and they do like, it's kind of cool. It's like personalized supplementation based on your Strava data, and that's been kind of cool. I wouldn't say I use that as much as like you're saying, there's people that are like, oh, triathletes will try anything, but I know plenty that just do whatever. So I've done some of that stuff, but primarily it's just real foods. And then
that's excellent.
That being said, like I work like when I'm racing though, like that's when I think like some of that stuff is super handy. Like I work with like Goo Energy Labs, and they'll have like Roctane or like gels or chews, or if you're doing like a 10-hour run, a ton run in the woods or something, like that's when it's nice to be able to be like, okay, I know I'm going to get everything I need, and I don't have to eat like 50 bags of potato chips mashed with sweet potato, mashed with like baby food or something.
Yeah. So talk about
that.
Talk about that. So your race day fueling, that's traditional carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, glues, sports drink, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like to tend to break it down depending on what kind of race it is and the intensity. I mean, I think that maybe for me, that's been something that works pretty well. So like if it's just the standard road marathon and I'm going to be out there for, 2 hours and 20 minutes to, 3 hours and a half or something, it's going to be probably straight up gels and water. And I'll take a gel I use Roctane, like Goo as a sponsor. And so it's, people can take that for what they will. There's other brands out there, but I use a Goo every 4 miles, or so for me, that's about 3.5, 4 miles. And so like, it seems like a lot, but I'll take like 5 or 6 Goos over the course of a marathon. Right. So like, that can be a little bit of an issue, if you don't have pockets, to actually just carry them in like a Ziploc. And I'll do that probably 50 miles. For 50 miles, I'll probably add in some liquid calories. So that could be like a bottle of like Roctane with gels and chews. Maybe if I have crew or something, bite like a sweet potato or something. But mostly it's going to be liquid calories and easy to digest stuff. Anything over like 50 miles or something where I'm going to be out there for a while, so like a mountain type race or something, then I'll start eating more like real food.
Right.
So like avocados with salt, baby food, those little applesauce packets, crackers. I'll eat some no chicken soup from like Amy's makes like one. I'll just drink that. Sometimes pizza, especially if you're moving slow. Like I've done some of those. I don't know if you know, like the format, like the backyard ultras where you run like 4.617 miles every hour on the hour and you just go until everyone quits.
Mm-hmm.
Like in those, it's really not about speed and it's more about like just grinding. That's where, you can kind of get some of those more, I guess, real or more like traditional foods.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense that the longer you're going to be out there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours and such, you got more degrees of freedom with digestion. And so you can take a little bit more.
Or like 63.
Oh, yeah. 63 hours.
Or like some of those, yeah, exactly. Like some of those races last like multiple days. And, and then the other thing too is like, I think temperature has a big factor too. Like sometimes like it's a lot easier to eat stuff that's liquidy, or you can chill when it's like, 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees rather than, trying to like, eat something and then it's going to stick in your mouth, or you have dry mouth or something like that. So like Slurpees work really well. Like that's a trick that, some of my friends that do some of the longer races have helped me with, is like cools you from the inside, or like you chill your bottles of Roctane, or even just like getting ice on your body allows your stomach to digest better. So like some of those tricks, like sometimes it's not really about what you're eating. It's just that you need to eat something. Yeah.
So for the listeners, what Michael is describing is he completed the backyard ultra, running 263 miles over 63 hours without sleeping. And that is pretty incredible. And so that was in your neighborhood of Virginia, correct? Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah, I ran around the same block. Yeah, I ran a 0.4 mile loop. So yeah, I ran 263 or 262 miles around the same 0.4 mile loop for 3 days, basically. Yeah, it was an adventure.
Incredible. So
again, I know my street really well.
Yeah, it sounds good. And so what we can gather from this is, I think oftentimes athletes, triathletes, endurance athletes, marathoners, they try to make the issue more complex than it is. They try to do something special. And from what I'm hearing from your nutrition and your fueling, it's fairly, you're not trying to do anything significant. It's just tried and true methods that we all know about. Carbohydrate, simple carbohydrate. If you're going super, super duper long hours and days, you're using, food. Right. So
and fats and that kind of stuff,
and fats. So when you're going longer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're doing a little bit slower burn, you can add some of that stuff in, and it really makes a difference. I mean, it just gives you a little bit more to burn, and a lot of times it'll sit better on your stomach. And really, I think it's about finding what you can tolerate too.
Yeah, excellent. All right, switching over to training, and so. You're self-coach, you train. So to hold a fitness where you can do a sub 3 hour marathon, and then the next day do another sub 3 hour marathon, and then the next day, what type of training philosophy or approaches do you center in your approach? So your Wikipedia lists you at 6 feet.
Yep.
And lists your weight at 145. And so I'm 6 feet tall, but I can't imagine being 145. So how does that play? I mean, body composition, your training approach, training philosophy. I mean, is that your race weight, or do you race at a lower weight? What goes into your training philosophy and approach?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. So my weight does fluctuate. Like I think this morning I was like 142. But if I'm doing a race like you had said, like the Marathon des Sables, where you're racing 6 days, 150 miles, where you're carrying all your food on your back for a week. Like I might come out of that race at like 134. Mm-hmm. And it's, and when I ran across Israel 2019, I think I got down to, 137 or something. And I'd say I'm between, 138 and probably 143 most days. And that just is a function of, how much I've eaten, how much of a load that I've put on my body over the last couple of days. And then also like I've been doing a lot more strength training. And so like I'm just getting a little bit more muscular on my upper body. And so that just weighs a little bit more. And which is fine. Like it's really been helpful, like later in events, to be able to be stronger and just have a power to keep moving forward. I'd say my training, like before about a year and a half ago or so, I was working in downtown Washington, D.C. and my training from work. And it was like, 10K to work in the morning, run again at lunch, and then run home. And I do that, 5 days or so, and then race on the weekend. That was pretty much what I do since I started working from home. I still try to work out in the morning. Since quarantine, I've been working out with a buddy of mine, Tom, and he and I'll do a CrossFit type workout from about 5:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the morning. I'll usually come home, go for a run, do something again at lunch, and then kind of be done for the day and just be a dad, and then race on the weekends when I can. Or last year I was doing lots of fastest known times and virtual events. This year I'm hoping for more live in-person events. And actually this week I'm headed to do my first trip to California. I'm going to try to do a fastest known time, which is kind of for the people in your audience that don't know what that is, it's kind of like a self-directed project. So it's just kind of you, and you go out to a trail, or you run between 2 points, or you kind of come up with a creative idea, and then you can submit it to this website, and they kind of track all the people that have run it before or whatever.
Right.
So I'm doing a FKT on Thursday of this week, and then on Saturday I have a 12-hour run for one of the companies I work with called Ultra X, and it's basically just running from dawn till dusk on Saturday, and I'm going to do that on Catalina Island out in California.
Yeah. So I mean, running at a 19 BMI, that's a pro marathoner will run at that body composition, but there are many people that are that body composition and can't do what you do. So what else is it? To be able to run multiple sub 3 hour marathons back to back like that, is it you just have built up a VO2 max engine or a lactate threshold that is just high? Or is it peripheral fitness where you've run so many miles that you just have the peripheral endurance in your legs to be able to sustain those paces? Or is it a combination of all of it?
I'd say it's probably a combination of a lot of different things. Like, I think a lot of people, like, once they run a marathon, they're not really excited about doing another marathon. And I'm pretty much excited to run as many marathons as I can, or ultra marathons. And so, like, I think you basically have to have the motivation to want to do it again, to want to be able to put your body through that kind of exertion. And some people might say pain. I feel like it's, it is maybe painful at times, but there is elation that goes with that. So, like, I feel like there's the mindset, attitude. Also, like, I have a really good ability to recover. So, like, that's always been something that I've been kind of gifted with. Like, and I think I try to augment that with being smart, eating pretty well. And then, a lot of people, when they finish a race, they just want to sit down and not do anything. I think for me, like, staying active, like continuing to walk or stretch or do some light jogging, I think that really helps to, like, get everything going again and get you ready for the next day. And then, it's consistency over a long period of time. Like, there's no, like we talked about earlier, like, no one else can do the work for you. And so, like, I've run a lot of miles over a lot of years, and I've been fortunate to stay relatively healthy during that time. And you build a big base, and then once you get a level of fitness, if you continue to maintain that fitness, it'll treat you well. And I think you got to continue to do the work, but you can kind of hold what your current fitness is and continue and improve that if you train smartly.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I think, have you ever had your VO2 max tested by any chance? I'm just curious to.
I have. I don't believe
you remember
it's been tested. Yeah, it wasn't that high. Like, it's not like, it wasn't natural. I feel like it was like 65.
Okay.
So
that's above average, but that's well above average for your age, but it's not like, Eddie Merckx level.
Right. And it's not like a Norwegian skier or something. I think it was like, similar to like Bill Rogers or something. Like, I want to say that, but it wasn't like, I feel like the most it's ever been was like in the 70s or something, but still that's not like 90% or something. Right. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, and like, it's one of those numbers, like, it doesn't really matter except to be able to say what it is, right? Like, it doesn't make you go faster. And I feel like the only thing it could do for some people is like, it just limits them because they're like, oh, my VO2 max is only 50. I can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And like your VO2 max that you get from your watch, I think is funny. Like,
that one is a little iffy. I wouldn't count on that one. Wouldn't count on that algorithm. But it just sounds like, again, tried and true running consistency. But to be able to do what you've done, where you're doing multiple sub 3 hour marathons, 2:45 marathons back to back like that is just incredible. What it shows you is anyone who has consistency and you can perform, maybe you won't go to the Olympic trials, but whatever physical attributes you have, as long as you're consistent with it and you eat healthy, you can surprise yourself with some of the things that you can do. Do you agree?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's so awesome about running is like we talked about earlier. It's like if you're willing to put the time and effort in, like running is a rewarding endeavor. Like it's almost impossible not to improve. Like if you can stay healthy and you're consistent, like you're going to get better and you're going to get stronger and you're going to get fitter and your body is going to adapt and you may not start out in where you want to be, but if you keep working at it, you'll eventually get there. I mean, that being said, like there are limits. Like I don't think I'm going to be breaking sub 2 in the marathon anytime soon, but like you can, and I don't think that we need to do that. I mean, I think we just want to see, what we're capable of and there's always going to be someone that's better than you, but you want to try to get the best out of yourself. And I'm still on that journey and I want to continue to evolve as an athlete and see what's possible.
Okay. You heard it from Michael himself. So if you want anything more than that, you're going to have to hire him. But yeah, I mean, coaching athletes myself, it's you run more, that helps. Having a good core system, lactate threshold, VO2 max, what that is, you don't know, but interval training, long training, it all helps. And then obviously good nutrition. Now,
it's pretty simple. Like running, I feel like we get paid to help people, and I'm glad that we can. But it's pretty straightforward. Like, I mean, we all know, like, if you're out there and you're working hard and you're staying healthy, like, people probably don't need us. What the nice thing about having us is like, I can help somebody avoid a year of making mistakes. Like, and so that's to me where the value comes is right. Like, eventually people will get where they need to go if they can stay healthy and they are dedicated. But if you can have someone guide you, like I would have rather, someone tell me like, don't eat 25 gels because you saw the guy next to you do it because you're going to be throwing up for five hours, right? Or, like don't try to, drink Gatorade because you saw the guy in first place drink Gatorade. Maybe you should, find your own way on that, or
find your own plan. Right.
Yeah, or you don't have to run 150 miles a week because you saw somebody on Strava doing it. Like, that might be great for them, but you're going to end up hurt in 3 weeks. And so, like, that's the kind of stuff, like, yeah, we can all get there, but it's nice to have some guidance so you don't have to go the long way to get there.
Yes. Yeah. And then, the average Joes that, have said, I'll marathon, I'll never do that. But then you help them and you see them do a 5K and then you see them do a 10K and then you say, you see the lights go on in their eyes and they say, I think I can do a half marathon. And then they do that. And then they do, that's the stuff that you get gratification out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, dude, I'd say it's one of the coolest things. And even like, just to know that it's possible.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know when I first started. And then like when someone's telling you like, yeah, no, man, you can totally do it. Like, it's nice to have that kind of perspective. And like, yeah, I mean, yeah, people can run like 100 miles in 12 hours. Like, what? That's not even possible. But like yeah, it's totally happens. And so like, just having people out there that are supporting you is a big help.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about what's next for you. Now, you're 46. Is that right? 46 years old. So
yes, sir.
You and I are effectively around the same age. Do you feel any type of physical or burnout or even psychological burnout with all the stuff that you've done? And at the same time, what's next? What's the next big endeavor that you're going to tackle?
Yeah, man. So I am not at all burnt out. I'm definitely motivated to continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. Like I have a lot of goals still. Like my biggest thing that is something that's been an itch for a long time, and I just it's just a big thing to work out, especially with like having a family and owning a business, is I want to run across the United States. Like that's like my white whale, that's something that I have dreamed about. And even I went across Israel just to see, if my body was capable of that kind of load. When I ran across Israel in 2019, I was averaging about 100 kilometers a day. And if I wanted to run across the United States, I'd want to try to run that kind of volume, if not a little bit more. And
without stopping? I know that's probably a blasphemous question, but
no. Yeah. So everyone stops. I mean, you basically run 10 to 14 hours a day, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and you do that again. And you do that. If you want to get the record, you do that for 42 days in a row. Like my friend Pete Kostelnik, he's got the record at about 42 days, which is an average of around 70 miles a day. So it's no small task, and I don't know if I would be capable of that, but at some point I'd like to try to give that a go. So that's kind of what I've been working towards. I still want to run some fast marathon times. Like I think it'd be really cool. Like I have the record for all the world marathons in the same year, and average time of 2:31, and a lot of those are this fall. And so I think it'd be fun to try to run a lot of those this fall in 2021. I think it'd be cool to. One of my big dreams is to run on the moon. So I keep saying it. So every podcast I get on, I just think that would be amazing. And now there's, some space tourism. So, Elon and all you guys out there that, Richard Branson, Elon, I'm ready if you need a guinea pig. Yeah.
Let's send Michael to the moon.
Yeah. So like, I definitely, I think that would be pretty cool. Or run. I know there's been marathons run in the International Space Station, but I think, that could be cool too, is like I could try to set the world record, but I guess it'd be the intergalactic record on the space station. Yeah.
What about the 24-hour treadmill marathon? I've seen some international guys go after that. I think you could bring it to bring the title to the United States. You could do it. You could do that on the weekend. Just do it, schedule it, do it, get it out of the way.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I also want to, I did do the quarantine backyard ultra, but I'd like to do the backyard ultra that they have in Tennessee. My friend Laz, he's the race director for it. He does like the Barkley marathons. Like I've done the Barkley marathons twice. I'd like to do better at that race. I'd like to do the Biggs backyard.
The infamous Barclays. That is, it's an infamous race. Wow. That's
yeah. And I knocked out both times. So that's on my list. This year, I'm actually running the Hard Rock 100 miler. That's one of my favorite events. So I'm really looking forward to doing that race in the mountains of Colorado and Silverton area and the San Juan Mountains. I'm also doing a race in Slovenia, hopefully, for a company called Ultra X. It's a world championship stage race where you kind of carry all your stuff for a week. And then I'm doing a race in Bhutan called the Snowman Race, which is an international race with about 20 runners from around the world. And we're basically going to Bhutan to race each other, but help to raise awareness for climate change. Because although Bhutan is pretty remote, it's actually impacted quite a bit by the rest of the world. So we're trying to bring awareness to the issue of changing climate. And so like, we want to make sure that people are aware of it and that it's happening, and hopefully showcase the beauty of Bhutan while we're there.
An excellent cause.
And that being, it should be awesome. But yeah, I mean, all that's subject to like, COVID, and, hopefully I can, be vaccinated, and everyone else can also be vaccinated, by the time a lot of this travel starts to happen.
Yep, exactly. I got my first, waiting on my second Moderna. So yeah, we all got to do it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. We all got to do it. Got to do it. Wow. So we got your race schedule. Hopefully you guys see Michael out there. Give him a shout. Tell him you heard him on the podcast. That is just incredible. 46 years old. No sign of physical deterioration. No sign of psychological burnout. I mean, this is some of the things that we see in the endurance community. Wow, that's incredible. So maybe we want to look at Ironman. I mean, to see what you could do off of the bike might be an interesting thing. You might win it. Who knows?
I have done one Ironman in 1999. I did the Ironman Lake Placid, and I did not come close to winning. I think I was like 12 and a half, 13 hours or something.
Off the bike, what did you do?
Yeah, I definitely, one of my dream. Oh, I was fast off the bike. I actually, like, in my memory, I thought I was like 2:45 or something, but then I looked, and I think I was more like 3:30 or something. So like not super fast, but I think I could be way faster now, just because I did not have the base of endurance. But yeah, I mean, I think one of my dreams would be to do Ironman at some point in Kona, qualify legit, not just like get a spot through a sponsor and do the whole thing. And so I think that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's another thing. I'd be sitting front row watching that one. That'd be great to see. All right, let's finish up. You've been gracious with your time. So let's finish up and just give your advice to whether it be, first give your advice to the average person who doesn't think that they're a runner, or they don't think they have the body to run, or they don't think they have the genetics to run, to that average person, and then give some advice to the person who's been running marathons and wants to run sub 3 or maybe do an ultra.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's probably the same advice, or at least some of the advice is applicable to both people, is stay consistent. Like staying consistent and staying healthy, I think, are two things that get overlooked. Everyone's like, oh, I got to run a tempo run, or I got to, do a track workout, or, I got to get my SLR in, or, and really, like, if you can stay consistent and you can not get hurt, like, you're going to get where you want to go. And so, for the people that are just starting out, I would say get some guidance. Like, I think, and that doesn't necessarily mean a coach, but like, get with a group, like get some people to hold you accountable that are going to help you stay consistent, or even just write it down and post it on your wall. Like, I'm going to run, 5 days a week or something. I'd say the other thing is don't be afraid to take a day off. I'd say when I was younger, I would freak out if I missed a day, like that big 0 staring at you in the training log. Like, I did not like that. And I definitely ran through some things, and I think it was probably good for me at the time. But I'd say as I've matured, like, I realized, like, if you miss one day, it's not the end of the world, but you can do something. So, like, you don't have to maybe necessarily run a tempo run, but you could run an easy run, and it might, be just what you need to get your body back to where you want to go. So, like, don't be afraid to go easier on a day when you're not feeling it, and also, like, keep some flexibility. I think I was so caught up in, like, I got to hit triple digits every week, as far as like miles run. And I'd say that's less important than staying healthy and being consistent as you can. Also, like, I'd recommend for both groups to set a tangible goal, but also make it a goal that kind of fires you up and gets you scared. So like, it might be like, I'm going to run every day for a year. Actually, like later today, I'm going to run with these two kids that like set a goal to run every day for a year, and they're about to finish a year-long journey, and they're like fans locally. And like, I was like, oh, I'll totally, like, their dad just reach out. Like, I had no idea they were doing it, but like, make sure that I'm sure when those kids started, they did not think they were going to be able to run a mile every day for a year, but like now they're closing in on it. And they must be so excited. So like, make it something that's hard, but something that you could do.
Right.
But it should be something that, gets you fired up, because like, if you're waking up 4:45 in the morning, it's something that you're like, don't care about, like, it's not going to last very long.
That's
so like,
right.
it's gotta be something that's legit gonna make you excited to do the work. Also write everything down, like either in a journal or on a Post-it note, and put it on your plaque. And so, you can remember, like, I have a bunch of Post-it notes, and I feel like those things, like, they don't seem like they're a big deal, but as soon as you write it down, it becomes real. And then don't be afraid to tell people about it. You'll be surprised. Like, you'll have people, like, I know when I first started, my parents were freaking out. They were like, "Oh, you're gonna die," But and I think people tend to want to protect you, but you'll be surprised how many people will support you along the way. And I know I've had support from places I never expected it. And so, harness the power of, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and those places, and put your dreams out there. You'll be surprised at how many people will help you achieve them. And it also keep you accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So, thanks. You've given me your time, and I'm great. I'm grateful for that. So, where can people find you out on social media if they want to find you?
Yeah, totally. There's a couple different places. I am at Mike Wardian, and that's MikeWard, like dog, IAN like Nancy. And that's for Twitter and Instagram. And then I'm if you just type Michael Wardian into Facebook, my personal thing is full, but I have an athlete page, so people can go there and like the page. And then I have a Mike Wardian website. It's kind of old and dated because most people don't usually use websites anymore.
Right.
So it's not super fancy, but it's there. But yeah, most of the time, like, I'm really active on social media. So if people want to reach me, that's probably the best place.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for giving me your time, and for you and your family, stay safe. 2 kids? How many kids? 2?
Yeah, 2 boys. Pierce, who's 14, and Grant, who's 12. So yeah.
All right, watch out for them. We're gonna see them start running soon. Eclipse their father's records.
I hope so. That would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Michael, for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks again to Michael Wardian for coming on to the podcast. A family man and an incredible athlete, and just a guy that loves running and saving the world while he's doing it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do next. Just to underscore some of the lessons from this podcast, for those people that don't run, and some people have just sort of bought into the idea that they can't run, or they don't have the body to run, or they don't have the genetics to run, or I only run when something's chasing me, things like that. Look, if there's a lesson that you guys can get from this, is that you don't have to be an ultramarathon runner, an Olympic trials qualifier, or anything like that. Our bodies were born to run, that's for certain. Your ancestors got up on 2 feet hundreds of thousands of years ago, and because of that, you have the benefit of being able to run. And there are millions of people that finish marathons every year, and half marathon is probably the most popular. Millions of people finishing marathons half marathons per year. But you don't even have to think about that. For those people that are just getting into running or thinking about getting into running, just thinking about running a mile and maybe set a goal for yourself to run 5 kilometers without stopping. That's a very respectable goal for just about most people on the planet who are able to run, right? There are some people that are not able, but if you're able to run and you don't have any physical impediments, then running 5 kilometers or even running a mile is a good goal. Running is the most efficient means of getting and staying fit, and I'm pretty certain I can prove that empirically for anyone who would wish to challenge that. And for the avid runner or avid marathoner looking to improve marathon performance or qualify for the Boston Marathon or whatever it is, I think there was some important lessons for you as well that Michael talked about. You talked about consistency, which is the number one contribution to performance. And when we train marathoners, and we train marathoners all the time of all abilities, among several factors, we look at 3 big primary components. Number 1 is that sort of core system readiness, your VO2 max, your lactate threshold. By the way, I mentioned these terms in the podcast and neglected to define them, but your VO2 max is just oxygen uptake. It's a key measure for any endurance athlete. It's essentially your oxygen delivery system to your muscles. The higher that is, the better you'll perform generally as an endurance athlete. Lactate threshold is the buildup of lactic acid in your blood when you run. There's a speed for every person. There's a speed at which lactic acid begins to build up at a rate so fast your body can't simply remove it. That is your lactate threshold. You want that to be as high as possible. How do you build those up? The answer? Training. And training at paces and intervals that are very difficult to sustain. And if it were easy, everyone would be fast. So I generally look at those 2 as your core fitness system. That is one component. Another component is your peripheral system readiness, meaning the peripheral system is one component of your central nervous system, and that is your peripherals, your legs, right? How ready are they to sustain whatever it is you're looking to do, whether it be a marathon or half marathon or ultra marathon? And then another component is nutrition and body composition, right? So you need to be able to show up on race day with a properly trained and fueled body. And of course, power to weight ratio is a factor in any discipline of self-propelled motion, whether it's swimming, cycling, running, rowing, or dunking a basketball. Power to weight ratio is a factor. Whatever the physical attributes that you have, you do the best that you can with those physical attributes, and using reputable science and evidence-based approaches, nutrition, science, and consistency in those approaches, you'll be surprised at what the human body will do. And finally, if you look at the amount of experience that Michael has, I think he's indicated late 90s is when he started the endurance running. And similarly, I started in the early 2000s. It takes a great amount of experience to coach people and prescribe activity to people to meet or exceed the demands of these types of events. And so as you go out and you look for people to help and advise you, always make sure that you seek out people with broad levels of experience. Certified doesn't always mean qualified, right? experience in the end trumps whether or not someone has, some certification to do that. So if you look at Michael and you look at his breadth of experience, that is a great example of the type of experience that you want to seek out when you look to find someone who can help you. I think I'll conclude there, and I'll end with a brief call to action. As there are now somewhere near 1 million podcasts out there total, and we're seeing about 500 new podcasts a day, I'm going to need a call to action for you guys. If you guys can go out on Apple and write a review and maybe even throw in a 5-star rating after that, that would be helpful, because it will always help get the endurance experience up in the rankings as we compete for a very crowded space in the health and fitness podcast genre. Okay, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Get ready for a great season 4. This is the Endurance Experience.
Follow Event Horizon Endurance Sport on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for training and nutrition programs and on-demand learning, to become a member of our Endurance Institute, or for complete archive of podcasts, log on to our website, eventhorizon.tv.